What's going on? Welcome to Creator Factor Podcast, where we help creators with tips and strategies of building communities, brands, and businesses online. I am the host that loves you the most, Ozeal, and today we're going to be talking about a creator prediction I had. Actually, I wrote about this late last year, and it was published on podnews.net. Shout out to Podnews. And it was a prediction that I had about the reemergence of live streaming. Now, live streaming has been around for a minute, y'all, but I felt like live streaming is going to have this reemergence, this new revolution in 2024. And of course, I was thinking about who is the perfect guest to talk about live streaming. So I reached out to my homie, to my friend, because she is a live video strategist with over 15 years of digital marketing and has been recognized as one of the top 50 digital marketing thought leaders. She's a real deal, y'all. She's worked with a master chef. She's worked with an astronaut. She's worked with top creators and entrepreneurs out there. Creator Factor fam, without further ado, let's welcome to the show, founder of Lights Camera Live and the co-founder of Leap Streaming Bootcamp, my girl, Stephanie Garcia in the house. Stephanie, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you. That was so much fun.
That was fun. I was feel like I was about to start rapping here. Your intro. I know. Give me the beat. Give me the beat.
I know, right?
Listen, it's great. I feel like this is a homie reunion. It's been a minute. We were talking how it's been 2 years since we connected. We had you on a show, and we were talking about live streaming, and we were talking about all the things. And I wrote an article, Stephanie. I was like, I was kind of sharing my podcast predictions for 2024. And I'm like, yo, live streaming, I feel like it's always been there, but I'm like, this is going to be a year where I feel like we're going to see live streaming take shape in a different way. So
for sure.
I'm glad to kind of dig into the world of live streaming with you. But first and foremost, 2024. All right, give it to me, girl. What's the one word to describe the vibe you desire in 2024?
Oh gosh, resilience. I would definitely say resilience for 2024. It's one of those things where I just got off a call with one of my good friends. He's a mindset coach, and he was telling me about how he was watching this boxing match and how in the first round, this boxer, like, he totally whooped the other guy. Like, first round, boom, like totally, undoubtedly won the damn thing. But then in the next couple of rounds after, he got his butt just handed to him. He got his eyes gashed and all these other things. And everyone was telling him, like, it's okay, just get back in it. Just get back in it. And by like the 7th or the 8th round, my friend, he was like, man, he should just call it quits. But no, he just kept going in and he kept going in. And then by the 12th round, with all of his might, he won it. Like, he absolutely won it. And it's one of those things where sometimes in life, you're kind of like, damn, what round am I in? Am I in round 3? Am I in round 11? Like, where am I exactly? But I think at the end of the day, you have to realize, where your attention goes, energy flows. And the more you put your effort into it, right? No matter how many times you get knocked down, you get back up, and surround yourself by people too that aren't going to let you give up on yourself. And to me, that's where I was like, resilience. That's a good one.
I love that word. and there's no better analogy than to use the sport of boxing, a boxing match between, I'm serious. Like, if you think about it, like, it's beautiful when you see two people go at it. There's really, aside from their coach, where they go in there, in the corner and get some advice and get back out there. But this is a sport where you see somebody take punches, much like us creative entrepreneurs deal with. Go out there, lace it up, go out there on the battlefield and fight for 3 rounds, get hit, come back, get hit again. You're like, are you serious? You want to go do this again? But there's that spirit of entrepreneurship that's embedded in boxing. And I never thought about it like that, Stephanie, until you actually brought that up. How it is where we get knocked down, but it's that resilience, that boxer, that champion level mindset that gets you up and just like, bring it on. Let's go again. The bell hasn't rung yet,
The bell hasn't rung yet.
Beautiful.
I don't know. Yeah. Love it.
Okay. I love that. You got me. And I'm a big boxing fan, so you got me going. You got me going on this one.
Like,
this could be a good one, y'all.
When he told me that, because he sent me like a voice text and I had to listen to it twice. And I was like, you're right. I don't know what round I'm in, but I'm going to keep going. Yeah.
Keep going. I love that. What a way to start the show. All right. Let's Whew, got me going. All right, let's talk about knocking out live streaming today. Let's talk about knocking, jab. All right,
Yeah.
let's go. Live streaming. All right, give it to me. All right, let's talk, because you've been in the game for quite some time.
Yeah.
Give us your hot take on live streaming in 2024, and where do you see it going
Oh, for sure.
onward?
So it's interesting because when live streaming first came out, like let's say it got really, really big, 2016, Facebook,
Mhm.
everyone was like rah rah all about it, right? And I would say like everything that's shifted now in the live streaming realm. I mean, there's different facets of it. Like one thing that I love where live streaming has evolved is in live shopping, like TikTok live going
Yes,
bananas, right? And
yes.
then come December, Instagram was finally like, okay, now you could go live on Instagram, which for me, that was a game changer because a lot of the conferences that I went to, people wanted to connect with me on Instagram where they could find out what's happening behind the scenes. They could get to know me, and live streaming from my desktop, especially on Ecamm, that was a game changer. I was able to like to sell out workshops. But where I see live streaming in 2024 is when you think about like growing your audience, right? Everyone wants to have like this follower acquisition strategy. How do I get new followers? How do I get new followers? And so they'll do, YouTube shorts, reels, TikToks, and things of that sort. But how do you actually engage and retain your audience? And that's where I think live streaming is here to stay because everyone is like in love with AI, chat GPT, right? It's like 99% of the content out there is like vanilla and the 1% is live streaming that puts you in a chokehold, right? It's just like, ooh,
Mm,
I get to know you. I get to really know your mannerisms, your vocabulary and all that. Like, what's your swag? And I feel like that's what you really get in live streaming. But the other fascinating thing about this, see, now you got me on something. The fascinating thing about live streaming is that those of us that have been in the game for a while, we still call it live streaming. Whereas some people will call it video podcasting. Does that make sense? They call
mhm.
it video podcasting. I was like, no, that's live streaming. You just put it on a podcast. But they're like, no. It's video podcast. It's a podcast, but I just put video on it. And so it's just interesting to see how people view this type of content medium. Now, where I love seeing live streaming come into the role of a content creator is now everyone is looking into repurposing their content. Mind you, there's a lot of live streaming friends that just weren't repurposing their content. And that's
Right.
how I separated myself from the sea of sameness. Is like, I will definitely take that transcript, turn it into a blog post, turn it into digital confetti, sprinkle it all over the internet. People are like, where the party at, right? So that's always been like my play. And so now to see tools that are out there like Riverside, where you do your video podcast, you get your clips at the end. Now you have Opus, where you
Yeah.
put your video over there, they'll make the clips for you. Now you could put it all across the short form content. But I think that the thing that remains the same, it's a video first content strategy. And I find that live streaming, if you start with that first, it's very much the unfiltered version of you. You could test it out to see what really resonates because people in the audience, they'll comment, they'll feedback. They're like, oh, there might be like that story that they really, really liked. And you're like, all right, cool. Well, then now I'm going to break that up like a pinata, right? And
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
boom, make other little pieces of content from it because you saw how that actually performed. And so that's how I see live streaming. Live streaming is definitely here to stay.
Well, first off, to go back to something you said, and I love the fact digital confetti. I think that's something I heard the first time from you. I love that. The So being in the podcasting game, and I've had
Yeah.
this chat with a lot of fellow creators. I'm seeing now this emergence of, yeah, people were doing live streams and calling it a podcast. And as a purist, I was like, yo, that's not a podcast, man. It's not, like, it's a live stream. It's a different. And as a purist in the beginning, a podcast was audio only.
Yeah.
It was traditionally an MP3 that you're putting it up in a hosting service and you're getting distribution on Spotify, Apple, etc. So that was traditionally a podcast.
Yeah.
And now people were putting on YouTube and they were calling live streams a podcast or a video podcast. And I get it that it's evolved, but
Yeah.
it's interesting to see how the video space has embraced the podcast world, interviews and personal brands using a podcast platform to be able to showcase their personal brand in a different way. And of course, adding, as you mentioned, an opportunity for creators to repurpose their content. I'm curious to know, like, what's your hot take on like video podcasts? Because whenever you and I started, I mean, whenever we
Yeah.
did the show together, I mean, that was a live stream show.
Yeah.
We didn't call that a podcast; it was a live stream show. And then fast forward to 2024, and video podcasting is on and popping. Like, it seems like everybody and their mama is starting a video podcast. What's your take? Because it's evolving quickly. Where do you think it's going with that?
I love the video podcasting. I love that there's different people from all walks of life, different
Yeah.
generations, different cultures that are hopping on there saying, I'm gonna do the damn thing. I'm gonna do a video
Hmm.
podcast, right?
Hmm.
What's more important to me, I feel like, just as a marketer, is repurpose that content. Know that not everyone is going to have time to watch, let's say, a 30-minute video podcast. Hell, I've even seen like people do 4-hour podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
just want to get as much content as possible. But definitely as a creator, don't deny that other people have different learning styles. Some people just want to listen to it only, like in the car when they're busy and they're going from point A to point B. Some people like me, I'm busy, I'm running around. Sometimes I just want to skim through the notes, get the key highlights. And then when I have the downtime, then maybe I'll watch the video or all this other stuff, right? So be very strategic about how you're creating your content, and know that if down the line you are going to repurpose it for short form video, you definitely need to run a show. That's the part
Yeah.
where I feel like most people that are content creators like, I'm just going to do the damn thing, but you should still be strategic about it.
That's right. You said something about personal brands showing up authentically on a live stream that you don't get in the pre-recorded jump cut type of content that you see on video. And it's so true. And I think it's interesting to see, because I've been watching some of my favorite YouTubers embrace live streaming like never before. And
Hmm.
it's just, a lot of them are doing like work with me live streams. And it's been
Yeah,
like fascinating to me. And I'm like, oh my God, I should maybe do that, because I think it's really intriguing. And you would think like, but they have the music, they have, the Pomodoro like timer on, and they're just vibing, and they're sharing something with their community that's a different aspect of who they
aspect.
are as a
Yeah.
creator. And are you noticing that too? And even that question also, if you notice, the big social media guru himself, Gary Vee, has been talking a little bit more about live streaming, saying, yo, I'm on Twitch and all that. So I feel like I predicted this stuff like in last year. And I was like, I think we're going to see more of this happening.
I
And I
definitely
think
think you're
it's
going to see
exciting.
more. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I have this one friend who's definitely on the forefront of AI, and he's all about deep fake videos of himself
Mhm.
so he could create more short form video content. And I think at some point we're going to reach it where it's like, is this really real? And so when
Mm.
you have live streaming, it's uncut, it's improvised, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And stuff happens. I've had like the craziest things happen on a live stream before. And I think that's where people really get to know you for who you are. And here's the other thing too, right? Like if you're a personal brand and you're answering questions live, like doing an AMA, ask me anything, and you just know off the cuff, boom, here's the answer. That to me builds your credibility a whole hell of a lot more versus like maybe a text, because babe, you could have gone over to like
Yeah.
chat GPT and made that stuff up, right?
Mhm.
But
Good point.
there you are, like you asked me a question like, oh, I would do this. You're like, damn, that came out like butter. Okay, cool.
What are some of the common mistakes you see creators make when they're trying to integrate a live stream strategy into their content marketing game?
I mean, the big one is obviously, I just saw this. I just saw this on Instagram. Like you could hear like the producer in the background saying like, "Okay, yeah, you're live right now, but let's just wait for a couple of people to come online." And I was
You
like,
heard oh
"Yeah,"
Lord.
I was like, "Babe, you're still doing that? Like, there's so many memes of this. How dare you?"
Yeah, people don't know.
Um,
People still doing it like crazy.
yeah, people are still doing that, but I would definitely say like the biggest red flag is people just aren't repurposing their content. To
Okay.
me, I just, if you're talking to someone for even like 10 minutes, there's gems in there. There's so much that you could do in there. And oftentimes I feel like in live streaming, it just comes out so naturally and in your own tone of voice, your
Yeah.
own personality. And sometimes people are now just going straight to like chat GPT, but it doesn't sound like them because they didn't train chat GPT to sound like them. And I feel like even if you're using tools like that, right? Like AI is a tool. It's not a person. You're a person.
Yeah.
You make up your values, your beliefs, your attitudes, your metaphors, and all those different things. Like, what resonates with people emotionally, right? And so I feel like that needs to come through in your content.
You mentioned AI. I'm curious to know your thoughts. Where do you see the future specifically of live streaming as we do see the emergence of AI, VR, AR? Like, where do you see live streaming kind of evolving to next
Oh,
level?
for sure. Okay. So I came back from CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show. It's like a big, huge trade show that happens in Las Vegas. And that's where you see all like the tech
Cutting
innovations.
edge. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the really cool things, it was Rote, and they were doing this with Caliverse, and it was it was live shopping, right? So you actually got to pick up with your VR headset, like this Louis Vuitton bag, and then like the host would actually talk to you and answer questions with you. And I was like, okay, that's legit, that's cool, right? But that begs the question, like, would you actually buy a luxury item through VR, or would you want to go to the store? So something for you guys to think about. But the part that tripped me out the most was they're doing EDM concerts or K-pop concerts in
Yeah,
VR. it,
it's
and
crazy.
I was like, it was wild because like there's this DJ and this big ass like green screen, but then you could see what they were actually producing on the VR side of things, and it was like a whole arena. You could look to your left, and like someone is quote unquote standing right next to you that you could engage with. So I thought that was really interesting in that sense.
I'm really, yeah, just tapping into the metaverse. And I was thinking about that. I was like, man, live stream is going to go crazy. And obviously, you saw that at CES of
Yeah.
how, the virtual community aspect will be so integrated in everything that we do. I mean, I know Apple Pro, the Vision Pro, they're coming up with those. And I
Yeah.
think that's going to continue to evolve and innovate. And it's going to be really interesting to see, like, even as an event organizer, like how we can even transform the event experience where it's virtual. Obviously, I don't want to replace humanity. I feel like there's going to
No,
be
for
real,
sure.
I hope we don't lose that, But
Yeah.
I love the idea of making it more of an interactive experience and enhancing that interactive experience, even how we're doing it now. Maybe imagine if we're doing something where we're hanging out and instead of seeing us. I mean, I'm
That
sure
would be hilarious.
it would be
Yeah, like
crazy.
little VR headsets and whatnot. Be like, hey,
Yeah.
how you
I mean, I
doing?
would not, I'm telling you, I think that we're going to see that. I mean, I think, we're going to see a lot more of that kind of come into play, and it won't be
For
what we're
sure.
seeing now.
Yeah.
So exciting times for sure. Okay. So we talked about the big mistake, which is, a lot of live streamers saying, we're going to wait until, or your producer, just mute it all. Just mute the mic,
No,
y'all. Just,
honestly, just have some B-roll footage in the beginning. Just
okay.
have like something playing.
Okay.
That I still think that as a live streamer, you have skill sets beyond your average content creator in the sense that you could produce a show, you could do media coaching. There's so much of the skill set as a live streamer that really will take you very far. And like one of my big beliefs is that your skill set is always your safety net. And with live streaming, I mean, damn, as a live streamer, you do improv. You're doing improv. You do tech. You do media coaching. You do tech rehearsals. You know what I'm saying? You're looking at the run of a show as a director. You're also a content creator in the sense of like, okay, how can I repurpose this content? There's so much that happens when you're a live streamer. Not saying that content creators don't have that too, but I'm just saying that there's added facets to it.
I love that you said that because I use the same message when it comes to podcasting, how podcasting is simply not just a personal brand or interview.
Yeah.
You're really learning how to articulate your message, how to become a better communicator, how to have more confidence, how to be, I mean, there's so, audio engineering, just the basic editing, adding the video. Like, so this is a beautiful space for us creators to really learn new skill sets that do transfer on a massive scale, whether we provide that service to a client or on a bigger level. But there is a lot. So, I mean, I think it's unspoken about in the creator world. Like, we don't know how
Yeah.
much we're really improving our skills.
I think if anything, if you haven't done this, and I know it might sound a bit antiquated, but if you were to create a resume for you as a content creator to
Mm,
say, I host a podcast, but what does that mean specifically? As you said, you'd be like, I'm an audio engineer. I train my guests, my hosts, my clients on how to be confident on camera. That's media training, right?
that's right.
There's so much to
That's
it,
right.
but you just have to know how to articulate what that skill set is. Because sometimes if you say, I'm a podcast host, people just have a picture in their mind, but they don't really know what that means.
Mm,
And so as a storyteller, you have to paint that picture for them and explain what does that mean exactly, right? Because for you to
right.
chase down a guest, to do a tech rehearsal, to
I
develop
know.
the run of show, to put it out there, to publish it, repurpose it. Now you're writing social media copy. There's so much that goes into that role.
If you had to pick like three top elements that every live stream show has, like you've obviously are a fan of live stream shows, you've produced, but you've also watched as a fan. What are like the three things that really stand out from like a really memorable live stream show versus an average?
Yeah, I would say what would really make your live stream memorable is first improv. Because it's one of those things to have a run of show, but also knowing how to engage with your audience. It's different, right? Because when you're on stage, right, I could see people in the audience. When you're live streaming, the funny thing is that, people will pay attention to the comments. And I know that sometimes if I say something and people are like, "Oh, snap," I will actually see the comments stop. That doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It just means that I hit them at their core and they're like, wait a second, let me just let that marinate for a second. And I could feel that in the room as a live streamer. So for improv, I think that's definitely helpful. The other piece I would say is storytelling. I like
Mm,
knowing how to fill in those gaps. And I always tell people it's knowing how to shift energy, that's magical. And you have to do that on a live stream because your live streams usually aren't going to be like a 3 to 5 minute live stream. It's usually going to be like 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and people want to be on this journey with you. And you're putting all the pieces together, right?
mm.
And it's magical in that sense. And then I would say the third piece of it is knowing how to engage your audience. Don't be, and I've produced shows like this for clients where it's a freaking monologue. I'm like, there's people, there's people in there. They're asking you questions. Why are you ignoring them? That's so rude. So I think all three of those components makes you a really great live streamer. And notice how I didn't even say that it was about the gear. I didn't say like, oh, you need to have like a
I
roadcaster.
was
Oh, you need to
expecting
have
that.
this.
Yeah, like
Oh,
yeah,
hell
lighting.
no.
Yeah.
People think
Mm.
it's about the gear, but it's the gears up here.
Woo.
It's how you ignite your ideas. It's how you broadcast your brilliance. It's how you captivate on command. To do that in real time, damn, that's a skill.
Let's pause. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. That was fire. That was fire, Stephanie. I like that. Put that on repeat. That's a clip. I'm gonna clip that. Clip that. That's amazing. I love that. No, I
Marker.
mean it's so true though, because the I mean, it's just amazing how, I was thinking the analogy I was thinking when you were sharing that is of a DJ.
Yeah.
How a DJ, the best DJs are the ones who have maybe a set kind of in mind.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of structure, but they know how to improv and they know
Yeah.
how to read the stage, and they know read from the stage, excuse me, and read their audience and catch the vibe. And maybe that song they thought was going to be hot isn't, and then now they got to improvise and switch it up to cater to the energy and to bring it up. So I feel like it's very much like a DJ and really understanding that and improving and really feeling the energy and knowing how to navigate that. I love that you said that, because what about the engagement? Because I know one of the things that I used to struggle with the live stream, and I was talking to a live streamer not too long ago, and he's like, yo, sometimes I feel like I get too caught up in the audience and I want to people please like everybody and give
Ah,
everybody shout outs, where I lose
yeah.
myself in the show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what's your take on that? How can do we structure a little bit to be able to still show love to our audience, but yet still have a structured show?
Yeah. So one of the things that I always tell people is that in a live stream, it's always nice to have a structure. It's nice to have a run of show because your audience, more often than not, your audience doesn't know how to interact with you just yet. Right. Like,
Mm,
first off, it's like kid in a candy store. They're like, oh my God, hey, you're here. Oh, hey, this person's here. And, da, 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 da.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, you want to acknowledge them. But I think in order for you to still have value in your message for getting people to take time out of their day to show up is structure it. And you're like, all right, you guys, I'm going to go through this content first, and then we're going to dive into the questions and all of that. So I think as long as you give yourself permission to say, okay, I love that you guys are here. Da, 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 da. So let me hit you with this real quick. All right, what do you guys think? And then knowing that there's obviously going to be like a 15, 20-second delay, you could ad lib a little bit, wait for the comments to pop up, engage with them in real time. But when you get them in that habit, they'll understand it. Like, man, okay. Was it December? I went through like Orange Theory for the very first time. Have you ever done this thing?
Never
Yeah.
done it. Yeah.
Okay. But there's a method to the madness, right? Like, first you do this and then you got to go to the other, but you don't understand it until you do it like the second time around. And so the more that you live stream, the more your audience gets to understand the structure. Even like our favorite sitcoms, like watching The Office, right? There's always something funny. Michael and Jim are probably going to open up the show, or Dwight's going to do something really silly, and then you get into the show. But you know the structure of it. And
Mm.
eventually your audience will know the same too.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. What are your thoughts on Is there a sweet spot as far as the length of time? Because I know you and I know with these live streams, you get on live streams, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, it's 2 hours past. Jesus, it goes by
Yeah.
so fast with live streaming. Is there something that we can do? And obviously, there are people watching, but is there a sweet spot to where like it should be 30 minutes, an hour? What's your take on that?
I never really focus so much on the time. If anything, for me, it's more or less the value. Did I
Mm,
deliver on what I promised? Because if I'm asking you to take time out of your day, I really want to
yeah.
make sure that you're coming out of this 10 times better than when you first came in. Like you came in with a problem and I want you to come back out with like 100 different ways to solve that problem. Like that's what I'm here for.
Mhm.
It's cool if you jump out once you've got your problem solved, all good. Sometimes I'm just live streaming because of the vibes. Sometimes people would just tell me what it is that they're interested on, and then that will help me go down the rabbit hole of other content that I want to create. But typically, I would say I try to dedicate 45 minutes of my time. And I tell my
Okay.
audience that I'm like, look, listen, if you're the type of person where you're a wallflower and you're like, I don't know if I should ask, I'm like, baby, you got 45 minutes and you got 5 minutes left. And if you're like, oh my God, should I ask her to dance now? Ask me to dance now. Because once the song ends, I'm out of the club. I'm doing something else. Right. So make your move, take your shot.
Ooh.
And eventually they'll start to realize that.
Okay. So there's definitely some structure. Obviously, is the
Yeah.
value important first, but there's a bit more. It goes back to the structure of the
Yeah,
show.
I think you still need to have some urgency in that too,
I agree. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Take us behind the scenes. You worked with a master chef. I mentioned in the intro, Claudia Sandoval.
Claudia
Uh,
Sandoval.
Sandoval,
Yeah.
and she got some success on that live stream show. I believe it was 178 k downloads of her book
178,000
in
downloads
24
of her
hours.
cookbook within 24 hours, which was
Crazy.
wild. This,
Talk to
yeah.
us. Take us back
Take us through
behind the
that.
scenes, planning and executing that live stream. Talk to us.
So
It's
it
crazy.
was awesome because she was always a homegirl. We worked at the same agency. And after she won MasterChef, she was like, babe, like T-Mobile and MasterChef want to do this live stream. Can you help me out? And I was like, say less. I'm there. Right. I was like, okay, so what is it that you want to do? And she's like, oh, I'm going to bake my famous tres leches cake. And it was the cake that on the show made Gordon Ramsay go,
Okay.
damn, right? It was like that cake. I was like, okay, we'll do it. But we definitely had like a structure in it because we wanted to make sure that the brand got what the brand wanted, that we definitely had the calls to action, which is basically download the app, get the book, all the things. And the gear setup, babe, it was like $10. We went to the
What?
dollar store and we got like these big ass poster boards to be her cue cards. We didn't even have a teleprompter. And then I had like this ring light. It was probably like a newer ring light. I had
Mhm.
my old MacBook Air. It was like a 2016 MacBook Air, old school. Yeah. And then we were just managing it on there, but it was a $10 production, 178,000 downloads. The part that
Wow.
we didn't think about was we probably needed a tripod because we were all doing it from a smartphone. And I don't know if you realize this, but to bake a tres leches cake takes like, it was like 2 hours. And so
Mm.
the homegirl that was holding the smartphone had like the buffest arm by the end of the production. And I thought it was the most hilarious thing. But we did the damn thing. It was honestly
Yeah.
like a 4-person crew. Because Claudia did the thing in front of the camera. One person was monitoring social media to make sure that there weren't any trolls, right? Then we had another person that was basically answering all the questions of like, this is where you download the app, this is where you buy the book. And then one more person that was basically holding the camera. So that was our four-person production crew, $10 budget, 178,000 downloads in 24
Wow.
hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to highlight that and get get the behind the scenes because for our listeners and watchers, I mean, they're just to show that you don't need a lot. You broke down the tech part. It wasn't expensive at all. And then to show just the power of live streaming and how a live stream, a simple live stream could really transform a business and really, make some moves. I think that's just the power of influence that live streaming has. I think it's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So for anybody who wants to kind of get started, Stephanie, let's I know we're not going to talk tech, for like your everyday creator, they're on a budget, maybe
Yeah.
$200. What do they need to have a successful just a starter live stream setup?
Oh my
What
gosh.
do you
Well, I
recommend?
mean, like, consider it first that you could go live on multiple platforms. Like you don't need to use a third-party software if you wanted to go live on Instagram or even on TikTok, right?
Okay.
Some of this stuff is now built into the platforms. I think the first thing that you need to invest in is your mindset, because it's not about the gear, it's the gears up here. And let me tell you, you have to figure out that if you're going to be live streaming, people are there for your vibe. And so you really have to figure out what lights you up inside. People think that lights, camera, live is about the Elgato lights. It's not. It's
Mm.
about what sets you on fire. Because when you figure out what you're passionate about, that's how you're going to motivate the masses. Okay. So first figure out what's your messaging? You got to take the mess out of your messaging if you really want to motivate the masses. Okay. So what lights you up inside? What's your purpose? Like affiliate marketing. Let's say someone says, oh, I want to start a podcast about affiliate marketing. For what purpose though? Just to make money? You're telling me the universe, God put you on this earth just for you to make money? No, there's a higher purpose for that. Is it because you want to change lives? Is it because you want people to, have food security or just whatever? Like, tell me what it is about you that makes your content different from everyone else. Does that make sense? So lights to me, that's the big thing. And then the next step really in figuring out what you're going to do for a podcast or even start live streaming, I always tell people, do the 10 by 10 formula. Write down the top 10 frequently asked questions about your business, your product, your service. Okay. And you can find that everywhere. You can find that in your emails. You can find that in your DMs and your comments. Hell, you could even go look at your competitors and see what
FAQ.
questions they're not answering, right?
Right.
And then you're going to write down the top 10 should ask questions that people should be asking, but they don't know because they're not the expert. You are. Like, I can't tell you how many times people ask me, oh, what's the mic that you're using? I'm like, baby, it's not about the mic. It's about the message.
Mm.
Because you could spend hundreds, thousands of dollars on your audio equipment, but if you can't speak with clarity, conviction, and confidence, there's no way in hell that you're going to like shift the energy and get people from point A to point B. Does that make sense?
All right. I'm pausing again, Stephanie. I'm pausing again. Pause. Okay. You got me excited because I always, when I'm coaching my clients, my podcast
Yeah.
clients, they get caught up in the download numbers and they
Yeah.
get caught up in the tech. And one of the things specifically for they will quit if they don't see a certain number of downloads. If they see 10 downloads after 4 or 5 episodes, they're like, podcasting is not for me. And I always say for the first year, it's your message over metrics.
Yeah.
And you just gave me another M to add. It's your message over metrics over mic. Just forget about all the tech, forget about the metrics. That first year you're in the trenches, give me 100 episodes, then come talk to me, and then we can talk about brand positioning and your market messaging and figure out where, if it's a marketing problem or a branding problem. But it goes back to what you were saying regarding the importance of mindset. And I love, this is where you and I vibe, because and I asked that question because do people always ask that question as far as like what tech, what basic stuff do I need? But I do agree with you 1000% that the mindset for any creator, if you don't have this dialed in, which I think that's the reason why there's a lot of good benefit in joining a mastermind or having a coach or hiring somebody like Stephanie to really help this, because the mindset is the game. And once you get that dialed in, it makes the content creation and the marketing so much easier. And now you're in a flow state. So
being a creator is a mindset.
That's it. Oh, 1000%.
Just because you publish a blog post does not make you a creator. Having the mindset of a creator is what makes you a creator. Because everything, then it's like you're in the matrix, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, everything is content. Everything is content. Me walking over to the mailbox to see what's in them, that's content. Me figuring out as an entrepreneur what I'm going to eat for today, that's content. Okay, how am I going to hit my macros today? That's content. It's content.
Overthinking way too much. Overthinking. That's one of
too much.
Yeah. That's a great message. I'm glad you mentioned that, Stephanie. As we, I love that you did the whole matrix. I love that. We should have got got that on camera. That's what it's like. That's what it's like. Be in flow state. All right, y'all. This is fun. Okay, as we land the plane, I always ask every guest this last question. If there's one creator factor that every creator should learn or master, what would that be?
I would say that the one creator factor that you should absolutely master is your voice. Because your voice is what makes you who you are. And it's so easy to get lost in the shuffle of just like echoing what other people have to say. But your voice, man, that's your fire. That's your spark. And your voice is a combination of your values, your beliefs, and your attitudes. And don't be afraid to go out there and share your voice. Don't delegate your voice to someone else, to have someone chop it up and edit it to make you sound good. Like, you should know what your message is. You should own your voice, because before you get a mic, God already gave you a mic, and it's the one that you have right here. You just have to learn how to use it.
Lightscameralive.com. Go get connected with my girl Stephanie. She's gonna hook you up. She talks about marketing, the mindset game,
Yeah.
live streaming, and of course, we'll make sure that we follow you on social. Everything is linked up, and of course, Leap into Live Bootcamp is coming up, right, Stephanie? If I'm not
It
mistaken.
is. We're aiming for April, and this year we're going to focus on tools, tactics, and strategies
Okay.
as live streamers. So yeah, you're going to learn what's our workflow? How do we create our content? What do we use? What are the must-have tools that we need?
And where do we go to sign up for that?
So the website isn't out just yet.
Okay.
So this is
Make sure you let me
like
know.
sneak peek for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, it's been a little slice of heaven, my friend, to have you on the show, to be
Yay.
reconnected with you, to see all your amazing. You and I, we hit it off from the jump when we had the podcast, and
Yeah.
I've been watching you from afar, from the sidelines, and just it's like, oh, I got this podcast going. I got to get my people on the show and
Yeah.
talk about this. So I really do appreciate you just making time for us and as a friend, and of course sharing a lot of gems for our community. So I appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for
All the
having
best.
me.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon. Peace.